So for my leisure activity project, I chose to do video games. I chose to do the game Destiny mainly because my boyfriend and a lot of my coworkers play this game, and I know that's definitely really popular among males right now, and they just came out with, I believe, Destiny 2, so it's kind of an ongoing game. So the earliest games in video game history were very simple. They usually just involved adventure games and spaceships. At the time, most games were gender neutral and they were not targeted to a specific audience. At the time, the makers of video games, they didn't really think of this is for boys or this is for girls. They just made it just to please the average American. Also, most companies at this time were just seeing what they could create with the technology that they were given or they had. In 1983, North America experienced a massive recession in the video game industry. The recession was called the video game crash of 1983. It resulted in bankrupting game company after game company after game company. The reason behind it was the video game market was saturated with low-quality games, which resulted in consumer confidence. Anybody and everybody was making a video game at this time, so players eventually got bored of the games that they were coming out with, or the companies were not supplying enough for the demand of the consumer. Following the video game crash, Nintendo is often credited with reviving the game industry. They revived the game industry with the Nintendo Entertainment System that they had brought out. The Nintendo seal on each game had promised buyers that their games would not disappoint. Nintendo had realized that you need to have a very clearly differentiated and specific brand because that's going to play into where you're running your ads and what kind of ads you run. Nintendo had figured out what to do to market each game to a specific type of brand and audience. By this time, Nintendo had done its research and math by traveling to cities, holding tournaments, and seeing firsthand who was playing their games. They had found that more boys were playing video games than girls. Video games were soon about to be reinvented after the video game crash of 1983. Soon after, they began to target boys under 10 with their Nintendo Entertainment System, also called the NES. And then 5 years later, the Super NES targets boys ages 10 to 15. Nintendo had now figured out how to target a specific audience, which were the boys. So the biggest reason why video games has been predominantly male is simply because of the fact that the industry targets the current established audience, which is males, rather than winning over a new audience. Most video games made for girls tend to not gain that much popularity because they stereotype girls too much, such as the cover will be very bright pink, or the character in the game will just be super girly and it'll be like your typical girly girl or the ideal female in the male's mind. Women are definitely getting more active into games now, with the number of girls and women playing these consoles more than 5 days a week, which has soared since 2011 to about 5 million this year in 2014. They are also very active in mobile games. At the recent Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, they found 55% of mobile game players to be women. So mobile games being the apps on the phone or even on Facebook, those games like Candy Crush or Farmville, things like that, women tend to play more than the regular home game console. So women do participate in video games, and when they do, they often choose to play as male characters. About 70% of females play as male characters online in hopes of sidestepping sexual harassment, according to a study by author and law professor Danielle Citron. So they think that if they play as a male, the males won't make fun of them if they are talking on the game, talking on Xbox Live or anything like that, so they choose to just play as a male character and possibly not talk on the microphone with others at all. And another issue is home video games are considered as games by gamers for gamers, so oftentimes the makers of these games are gamers themselves, so they make it for the average gamer. When it comes to video games, most people automatically think of first-person shooter games or epic fantasies. That's one of the stereotypes of a video game people like to think of. The typical gamer nerd boy often comes to mind as well when they think of video game players. People like to think of like a teenage boy in their room that always plays video games, but that's not always the case. All types of people like to play video games nowadays. Also, mobile games and apps are also video games, but are often forgotten about. Usually, male leisure activities are for downtime away from work. Video games fit into this ideal because people have switched so much time to computers and video games as their leisure activities now. Men enjoy video games because it is an escape from their daily routine and work life. I actually used to play a little bit of video games when I was in middle school, but I stopped as I was going into high school. I think I never got back to it because I wanted to do girly activities and things that I could put on social media, like shopping, eating out with my friends, and the typical things that you see on social media and Instagram now. I think that's often one of the things that holds back girls from trying things that boys usually do, is because they think that they're supposed to do activities that girls are supposed to do. So here are a few clips of me playing the game Destiny. My boyfriend taught me how to play, and I was doing a mission on these two clips and kind of just trying to figure out how to play the game, get used to the controls. And in the second clip, you can actually hear me asking him who are the people and what are the things in the clip. So the game is actually pretty challenging. It took me a while to kind of figure out the backstory of the game because there's so many different characters, so many different missions, so many different maps, and it was kind of hard. But I think if I was to play it for a little bit longer, consistently, I'd really be able to get the game and be really good at it. But the times that I did play the game, I thought it was really fun, and it was really interesting because they have a lot of, you could tell that there was a lot of thought put into the game, and it was really entertaining, and it's a not the usual game like Call of Duty. This one kind of has more of a story to it. So I understand why video games are a really popular leisure activity for males. I feel like because they get to be social with others, and they're also in their comfort of their own home. So I feel like guys, for leisure activities, they like to just unwind and be by themselves and relax, but they also like to be social with others. So video games can kind of give them the best of both worlds, and they get to talk with their friends and stuff, but they get to be at home still. And I think with girls, they kind of like to be out and about with other girls, and they like to post things on social media, and they like to try new things and explore and go shopping and stuff like that, whereas guys kind of just like to be really mellow and relax. So I would definitely play Destiny again. I think it was really fun, and I think that with more time I'd be able to get really good at it. So I might possibly buy the game for myself on my own Xbox and kind of try it out and see if I like it a lot, and maybe it can be one of my new leisure activities, but I definitely really like the game. So this slide has a list of my works cited, all of the sites that I use for all my information, for my PowerPoint as well as my paper.